Hey, what's good, everybody, and welcome to episode 58 of the Good Look podcast. I am your host, Leonard Pinckney, aka Agent P, aka L Pinckney, ready to give you guys another episode and our first one of actual basketball for this NBA regular season. First off, happy Halloween to everybody who's celebrating. I see all y'all with y'all little costumes. Y'all look great. But let's get into some NBA action. First off, at the Good Look Pod on all the socials. Make sure you follow, like, share, do all the good business for your boy. I appreciate it. Let's get into the news. Obviously, we got to get into the big one. James Harden trade went down. It went down at 2 a.m. Eastern time on Monday night. I remember I was on my phone at 11 o'clock. Woj hit us with a bomb saying that it was at 11 o'clock. James Harden going to the Clippers and left no details, but we do have the details now. Clippers get James Harden and PJ Tucker. 76ers are going to get Nick Batum, Robert Covington, Marcus Morris, first round picks in 26 and 28, 2 seconds, and a pick swap. So for me, my overall big takeaway is that we'll just start with the teams first. We'll go Clippers. Clippers are going all in. Like in its most optimistic view with this team, you have James Harden and Russell Westbrook working together in tandem and trying to take over a lot of the regular season load for this team. And hopefully you have PG and especially Kawhi Leonard healthy for the postseason. And that's pretty much what Steve Ballmer and the crew are looking to do with putting all four of these guys together. This means that Westbrook and Harden are going to be on the same team again for the third time in their careers. And Harden is not only going to LA because he wants to be home in LA, but because the Clippers are the only ones that can pay him. So James, obviously during the off season, had a lot to say about Daryl Morey, the guy that everyone thought was his guy, right? The guy in Houston who let him do whatever he wanted, got him to Philly, and now in the off season, apparently, maybe there was some wink, wink promise last year for James to get his extension, and he did not. So now he's in a position to where he was trying to do whatever he could to get out of Philly. And of course, um, James Harden is not one to mince words. James Harden is going to do whatever he can to try to get out of a situation that he doesn't like. And that's exactly what happened here again. So James Harden is now a Los Angeles Clipper. And for the Clippers, obviously, and it's on court look, I talked about it again. Um, Hopefully they're looking to see Kawhi and PG be healthy for the postseason run, and then pretty much go from there. Overall on the court, there's going to be some figuring out to do because James and Russ played together most recently 2020-21 in Houston. And then Russ wanted to ask out, and then James eventually asked out. But they played together. It was a little bit wonky. They got knocked out in the first round, so there wasn't a lot of success there. And Russ said that he had a desire to go back to being the primary facilitator on a basketball team, which is why he got traded to Washington ultimately, and it didn't work. So I don't really see how it's going to work here as well. I would imagine maybe Russ moves to the bench, or maybe everybody starts, right? We go Russ, PG, Kawhi, and Harden, and then the splits are just like mad nasty. Like we're taking James out with like 5 minutes left, or taking Russ out 5 minutes into a quarter, and then just keeping these guys staggered as much as possible so that we can try to optimize them, because a lot of these guys, to be good, need the ball in their hands. And Russ, for all the warts he had, he started off this season pretty well. I know his stats aren't that crazy, but if you watch the games, you can see that he looks excited to play, that he's happy to be out there, and just happy to be in a better situation for him. Obviously, the Lakers situation wasn't healthy, so it's good to see him in a brighter spot. And hopefully, this doesn't rain on his parade a little bit too much. Russ has taken a lot of hits over the last couple of years, rightfully so for some of them. It's not like he's getting criticism for no reason, but it's nice to see him that he was in a new spot. So we'll see how this James Harden thing affects him. I think it's going to affect him negatively. Overall, I just feel sorry for Clipper fans in general. I'm sorry that you have to cheer for this man. This is one of the I sports hate James Harden almost as much as any basketball player or athlete I have ever had to watch in my life. The way he plays and the stuff that he's allowed to get away with off the court, he gets to go wherever he wants, whenever he decides that he wants to get a trade and his situation's not beneficial to him anymore. And he flames out every single time you truly need him. This doesn't mean that he hasn't had good games in the playoffs, but more often than not, when James Harden is there for you and you need to depend on him, he will let you down in big moments. Season after season after season after season after season. We've seen so many different times James Harden not come through in the biggest situations, and teams continue to sign up for it for some reason because they think this situation is going to be different. I don't see it being any different. If he does, he's going to prove a lot of skeptics wrong. But man, it's going to go against over a decade's worth of data showing us that when he's really needed, he's not going to show up for you. So the homies that are Clipper fans, my pops even is a Clippers fan. He watches them all the time. So I feel bad for y'all. I'm sorry that you got to cheer for this man now. But hey, I actually don't hope it works out for you. I don't think it's going to work out. But hey, man, it is what it is. From the Philly point of view, it's pretty much addition by subtraction. Like I said, Harden is not a guy that you can rely on in the postseason. It's funny because everyone was just jumping on his jock when he had that 40-point game in game 1 of the second round, and then what happened? Game 2 did nothing. Game 7, when you needed him, did nothing. So, and I think it's not just because Maxey has had a great week to start the year, which he actually has. He's shown over the course of his tenure with the Philadelphia 76ers that, hey, this kid is really good, and this probably makes James Harden expendable. We probably want to put the ball in Tyrese Maxey's hands more often. He won Eastern Conference Player of the Week, so shout out to him for this worst week of the NBA season, averaging 30 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. He's got potential to be a first-time All-Star this year, potential to make a huge leap into not just being like a regular good young player, but a star, and someone who could really help Joel Embiid, who obviously needs as much as he can get right now. And Maxey's only 22 years old, so deciding to put the ball in his hands more is a good thing for Philadelphia. They added depth, but all the depth doesn't really move me at all. It's Marcus Morris and Covington and Nick Batum, all guys in their mid-30s who really, hey man, it is what it is. They had to fill out their roster with some depth. They weren't going to really get any blue chippers with James Harden pretty much saying he only wanted to go to one place. But the things that are valuable are the picks. 2 first-round picks and some swaps along with the second-rounders. That's important because if the Philadelphia 76ers are going to do what they can to build something productive around Joel Embiid, because we're already hearing it, we're already hearing the rumors that teams are gearing up to try to see if Joel's going to be unhappy. Are they going to trade for him? Is he going to want to ask out? So Philly and Daryl Morey have to do whatever they can to build a competitive team for Joel so that he doesn't want to leave Philly. I'm pretty sure if I was in Joel's camp or in his mind, I don't think he wants to leave Philly. It looks like he really loves the city and loves that they embrace him. And he's always gone out of his way to say that he loves Philly. He has, in some recent interviews, said that he may be looking elsewhere, like whether that was intentional or not. But I think he has a really good connection with that city. He's the MVP, man. Like, I know he flamed out again, but he's an incredible offensive and defensive player. And if Daryl Morey wants to keep him there, then you got to build around him. And that first-round pick or those first-round picks could be something that help at the deadline, or when Philly has a lot of cap space actually in this offseason, they'll be able to give Maxey an extension and then try to sign another free agent after that and pretty much go from there. So I actually kind of like it for the Philly side. I think people who are saying both teams won in this trade, I think neither team won. I don't think when you're in a James Harden situation, you're not really going to win because you're in a situation with the team that's trading him away that you're going to get a lot less money on the dollar than you would normally because he always finds a way to manipulate the trade and tank the value of it. And then the team that's getting him, you think you're getting a good player. Last year, James Harden was a good regular season player, averaged 21 and 10. But man, when you need him, he is not going to show up for you. So you could not pay me. If you offered James Harden for free, I would not want James Harden on my basketball team. I'll tell you that right now. Next up, guys, I want to get into the in-season tournament because it's going to be important. I am very excited for this. So starting this Friday, November 3rd, we're going to have pool play. So we're going to have 6 groups of 5 teams, 3 in the Eastern Conference and 3 in the Western Conference, and they're going to play each other round robin style. So you got 5 teams, they're all going to play each other, and that's a total of 4 games. I'm sorry if I sound complicated right now. I'll try to slow down a little bit. But once again, we got 3 teams in the or 3 groups in the East and 3 groups in the West. Each group has 5 teams, and these teams are going to all play each other once, 2 on the road and 2 at home. And out of those 6 groups, there's going to be a team that has the most wins in that group. Those 6 teams are all going to advance to the next round. And then the 2 teams that have the next best records after that are going to qualify as wildcard teams. So then we're going to have 8 total teams go into the knockout stage. And the knockout stage is going to be very much straightforward. We're talking just 8 single elimination, play each other until we get to a semifinal. We got 4 teams left. We're going to go to Vegas for the final 4, and then title game for the cup is going to be on December 9th, and that is when we will crown our first ever NBA Cup champion. So the reason I think that I am very open to this idea of the cup, and I think more people who are kind of just into maybe more American sports, is that I've been really getting into world football lately, especially over the last couple of years. Shout out to the Gooners, my boy. I'm an Arsenal fan, but European football is rooted in a lot of tradition, and they have a lot of and they have domestic cups in their leagues, meaning that they have these tournaments within the seasons that are happening in their regular seasons. So it's not just we play one season, like in the Premier League, for example, we're just playing the regular season and that's all. They have that. They have the Carabao Cup. They have the FA Cup, which is exactly an example of what I just talked about with the NBA Cup, which is just another, like a mini tournament inside of the regular season that gives other teams other things to play for. And uh, I think a lot of people who are skeptical about it are just like, what does this mean? What is it going to mean? And I think that's what a lot of people thought when the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup and the Premier League were just starting when they just started. It's like, what does this extra stuff really mean, right? And over time, it's built into a tradition within those leagues, within those countries, teams that are people who love those sports and players who play on these great teams over in Europe. It's become something that actually is really important. Now, there still is an argument to say, is that winning that tournament better than winning the Premier League or winning your league? Probably not. I'd say no, but it still has some meaning. So, for example, if a team wins, let's say in the Premier League, an FA Cup and they win the Premier League, you're talking about a team that wins the double because they won 2 trophies in one season. You saw a team called Manchester City last year. They won I believe it was the FA Cup. They won the Premier League and they won the Champions League. And the Champions League is like the biggest league in world football, where they have teams from all leagues all over the continent come in and play each other, or continent, excuse me, all over Europe from their big 5 leagues. They come together and play in a big tournament, and the winner of that league is crowned the champion of the Champions League. And you win that. If you win 3 trophies in a year, it's called winning a treble. So I think there's just a lot of good potential here for the NBA. I can imagine if the Nuggets ended up being the first team to win the NBA Cup and win a title in the same season, to be the first team in NBA history to pull a double in one full calendar season. I would be so hyped to say that it was my team that did that. I'd be very hyped to say it was my team that was the first one to win the NBA Cup. So I'm very much for this. And if you look at the regular season, right, we already diminish it so much because there's so many games in basketball. They're not going to cut the games anytime soon. Hopefully they do cut the regular season games, but even then, guys would still sit. And it's never going to be as important as the 16 or 17 games that the NFL can pull, because there's just so much urgency in having so fewer games. The NBA can't do that But if you can make some of these regular season games mean something again, I'm all for it. Just like imagine this scenario. Just imagine if the Orlando Magic somehow in their pool play come up with an amazing run, get out of their group, win their knockout stage, get into the final four, and they're facing like the Denver Nuggets in the final. And Orlando, um, realistically, isn't a team that is that has title aspirations at this time. But if they're playing the Nuggets, all they have to do is beat the Nuggets in a one-game scenario, and they can call themselves NBA Cup champions. And for a team that really isn't looking, that probably isn't in the title picture right now in terms of the NBA title, winning an NBA Cup for your season would be something that you could truly build on for the future. And especially a young team like that, I feel like that would build a lot of confidence, not just in like the team, but like the franchise and the fans of that team as well. I'd be really hyped if I was a Magic fan and we came away from this tournament not only having maybe a good showing, but actually winning the whole thing. It would be incredible. And I think a lot of teams are going to start figuring that out, and fan bases are going to start figuring that out as the years go by, as this builds more tradition. People are going to make their jokes. People are going to try to knock it. They're already knocking the jerseys, which admittedly so look kind of crappy. And the courts, I'm happy that they're changing the courts. The Champions League does the same thing where they have new jersey numbers and new patches on the team's kits when they go into the Champions League or when you're in a tournament. So I like that they're changing it up that way. The courts might be a little crazy, but these jerseys are going to be attached to these courts, and they're going to make it feel a little bit different than a regular season game. So, like I said, I am very much for it, and I cannot wait to see how all of this works out in the NBA Cup. I'm very hyped. So make sure you lock in this Friday, November 3rd, and get to knowing it, guys. It's going to be fun. I promise you. Let's go ahead and just quickly get into the players of the week. I already said Tyrese Maxey, 36-6. Incredible start for him with the Philadelphia 76ers. And my boy, Nikola Jokic, 26-13-8 for the only 4-0 team in the league, the Denver Nuggets. Shout out to my boy Yoke. Doing it on like 65% shooting as well. My man is just doing it ho-hum out here. Just killing the game. You feel me? And now I'm going to go ahead and get into some more broader standouts that I'm seeing over the league so far this year. And I know I have my own like Nuggets centric stuff where I have little recap videos and stuff, but I'd be remiss to not talk about these guys, man. 4-0 to start this year, league high point differential at plus 14, outscoring their opponents by 14 a game. They have been absolutely clinical starting this season. I'm not going to go too much into my guys, but pause. I'm not going to go too much into like talking about them, but man, if I have to talk about them a little bit here, they took out the Lakers in game 1, beat Memphis, OKC, and the Jazz after that pretty easily. Some of those games were a little bit closer, but whenever Denver needed to put the pedal down, they found a way to do it. So shout out to the Nuggets, man. Jokic is still absolutely incredible. Starting five looks great all around. And then you got young guys like Peyton Watson and Christian Brown who are growing each game. And I'm just, once again, so happy that they get to grow in this environment because they're not asked to do too much. They're just asked to play winning basketball. Let the starters carry most of the load here, and then you guys can chip in and help out, whether it's hustling, getting a dunk, getting a key rebound. So the Nuggets are just reminding y'all, man, y'all could talk about Milwaukee. You could talk about Phoenix. All these teams got to figure it out. We the champs. The Nuggets are still here. So if you want to see us, you're going to have to see us. All right? Okay. Next up, Boston Celtics, man. They look good. I ain't going front. Boston Celtics do look good. Of the new teams that have added some new things, we're talking about them adding Kristaps Porzingis. He's fit in seamlessly, man. And I'm a skeptic. I will say I'm a skeptic. I know he had a good season in Washington last year, but he's been so injury prone over the last couple of seasons. It's hard for him to show how great he is. But when he's been playing, obviously so far, the big three of him, Brown, and Tatum have looked really good. They're 3-0. Tatum's averaging 30, Jaylen Brown's averaging 25, and KP's averaging 20, excuse me. And Derek White, Drew Holiday have lived up to the billing. These guys look great as a defensive backcourt, probably already the best defensive backcourt in the league. I like what Boston's doing. They're going to really challenge for that. It looks like they're going to be the top seed in the Eastern Conference unless Milwaukee has something to say about it. Milwaukee got blown out in a weird game over the weekend, but they're still 2-1. They're still Giannis and Dame. Dame looked incredible night one. I believe he had 39 points. So Milwaukee and Boston are going to be slugging it out to see who's going to get that first seed. I picked Milwaukee to come out of the East this year, but obviously we got a long way to go. Only 4 games have been played by teams respectively, but Boston looks really good to start. Next up, man, Luka freaking Doncic. Can we just take a moment to talk about Luka Doncic? This dude looks absolutely incredible. He's averaging. These are prime Houston James Harden numbers, unfortunately. But Luka's been 39, 12, and 10, and the Mavs are 3-0. Now, competition isn't too crazy right now. They've only played the Spurs, Nets, and the Grizzlies. It's only been a week. But this man has been an absolute monster. Luka has finally come into an NBA season in shape. He's coming off a great FIBA tournament showing. And I'm happy to see that he's just got his foot on the gas from night one. He's usually had to work himself into shape as time has gone on when he's been in the league. His first 4 seasons now, Luka looks like a guy who's ready to lead this team in the way that they should be led. Now, I will say I don't think he's going to warrant much MVP consideration because at the end of the day, people want to argue about the Jokic thing and he won as a 6 seed. Like, look at the standings that year. The Denver Nuggets were a lot closer to Philadelphia and Milwaukee's records than people want to admit, but they just say 6 seed. It's a different year. Every year is different when we talk about MVP consideration, but what you have to do is win. You have to have a good record. And even though the Mavs are undefeated right now, I don't think that's going to hold up that well. Their defense is still really poor, and when they start playing some tougher opponents, i.e. when they play Denver on Friday, I think it's going to start showing some of their cracks. So, but salute to Luka, man. He's on my fantasy team. Boy's going to work. So, Luka, thank you very much for starting off the season so well. We can't wait to see what you're going to do for the rest of the season, man. Another obviously exciting player, guy who's excited us for so many years, and please do not take this man for granted, Steph Curry. Dude's just having fun out there, man. Averaging 33 a night. He's already dropped 40 points in 2 games this year. Dubs are 3-1. Steph looks amazing, man. It's crazy to see him still doing this at age 35. I talked about it. One of the things that is going to be beneficial to the league with the fact that maybe it's not as rough, right? Guys can't play as hard or foul as hard, is that our guys that we saw growing up are going to be able to play a little bit longer. Steph shouldn't be doing this at 35. LeBron shouldn't be what he's doing at 38. But because of obviously training being the way it is, modern medicine is everything's at its top level at this point. And you see guys being able to last longer in the league, man. And I'm so happy that we get to see these guys play longer because Steph Curry has been, as an NBA fan, he's been one of the most fun players to ever watch in the history of this game. And I want to see him continue to do it as long as he possibly can. So thank you, Steph, for continuing to do what you do. Dubs overall are playing well, 3-1 to start. And Chris Paul has looked fine. I'm a little bit worried about Chris Paul too. Much like Porzingis, this is a guy that I can't really rely on in terms of his durability. But Chris Paul's been a plus in the minutes that Steph Curry hasn't been on the court, and that's a big thing for Golden State as they're trying to move forward and make one more title run with this cast of characters. Klay Thompson and Draymond Green obviously are going to be the linchpins here. Can they do something that isn't reminiscent of how they flamed out in the postseason last year? They're a little bit older, obviously. Draymond just got his extension. Maybe that's going to give him some juice. Klay's going to be playing for an extension, so maybe being in a contract year, that's going to be something that incentivizes him. So this team is still raring to go. Obviously, they're title contenders as long as Steph is healthy. So I'm looking forward to see what Golden State does as well. I especially want to see how they match up with Denver. They're a team that can stretch the Nuggets out a lot in terms of their perimeter shooting. And I want to see that test for the Nuggets because we didn't really have to face that too often in the playoffs. But Golden State definitely presents that problem, and they've been off to a good start. Let's talk about some rookies. Obviously, we're going to talk about the first overall pick, Victor Wembanyama. That man has been. This dude is insane, man. Record-wise, Spurs not off to a great start, 1-2, but the flashes he's shown have been absolutely incredible. Blocking jump shots. Right now, his overall average is 16.7 boards, 2 blocks, and 2 steals per game. He's been a defensive menace. He's been hanging a bit around the perimeter more than you probably would like, but because of his slight frame, it's probably how he's going to be operating for much of his first year, maybe even his first few years in the NBA. We saw in that first game that he was struggling with foul calls, struggling a little bit with physicality, and just a little bit of awkwardness on the court. But when he shows those flashes, man, he pulls up from 3 effortlessly. He blocks shots effortlessly. He makes you think twice about taking jump shots. So the fact it's not even just him recording the block, it's the fact that he's making you think to take that shot. That's incredibly valuable in this league. So Victor being able to continue to build upon that. His defensive ability is what he's going to really hang his hat on this year, because if you look at the percentages, they're not all that great. He shoots the 3 easy, but he's only shooting 23% from the 3-point land right now. They have Zach Collins actually playing center most of the time he's on the court, so Victor doesn't have to take that physical beating most of the time. But the record for the Spurs doesn't matter. It's all just about developing Wemby and developing these other talents on this team. So Victor, continue to do what you're doing. Please stay healthy, man, because we want to see you continue to be great, continue to grow in this league. So very happy for you. Also, hey, man, quick shout out to Devin Vassell. Devin Vassell averaging 20 a game. Know the name. People were mad that he got an extension. Y'all ain't paying attention. This boy can hoop, all right? Asar Thompson, not Amen. Amen's over in Houston, struggling a little bit, but his twin brother Asar has been a defensive stud for the Detroit Pistons. He's averaging 2.5 blocks per game as a wing player in this league. Absolutely incredible. Athleticism off the charts. And he's been a really nice compliment to Cade, who's shooting a little bit low in terms of percentage. He's in the low 40s right now, but he's still averaging about 20-8 for the Detroit Pistons. And Asar, Detroit's got a lot to figure out, right? They got Jaden Ivey, Killian Hayes. They got some rookies and some early year guys who are trying to figure out what their niche is going to be in this league. And Asar is showing that he can be a really nice player defensively. Offensively, still got some stuff to work on. His jump shot is a little bit better than his brother's, but that's not saying too much. They both got things to work on, but Asar has popped so far, showing that his defensive ability is something that he can really hang his hat on in his rookie season, much like Victor Wembanyama. Chet Holmgren has been an incredible fit for OKC. Other than playing against Jokic, which is like hard for everybody, he's really held his own. Even against Jokic, he had 17 points in that game. He started off really well in the first quarter. He just wasn't big enough to guard him. But he's been averaging 15.7 boards and 3 blocks a game. He's been able to show his versatility both inside and outside, and he's just a perfect fit for this OKC team, man. He runs well with Giddey and Jalen Williams. Shea obviously is incredible, and all these guys just really fit together. That's why I really had a lot of faith in them. I think they're going to be pushing 50 wins, top 5 seed for sure. I think regular season wise, these guys are built to. They're young enough. They've played enough games now, and they're going to start grabbing more cohesion as Chet starts to get more familiar with these guys. I'm very excited for this OKC team. I think they're going to win a lot of games this year. Shout out to Chet. Brandon Miller. Man, I was a little skeptical about Brandon Miller. Charlotte, as a franchise, continues to be a dumpster fire. They are ridiculous. But in his first few games, dude's been a bright spot. He's averaging 17 a game, and he's shooting 43% from 3. So 6'9" forward, a guy who has really modeled his game after Paul George, has been able to show that he's not afraid. First of all, he almost got into a fight with Isaiah Stewart from Detroit. And if you remember, Isaiah Stewart almost ran through an entire line of security just to try to fight LeBron James. But he hasn't been afraid. and he's shown that he's a threat both inside and outside. So I'm very impressed with what we've seen with Brandon Miller so far. Obviously, these games are really early, but it's all we can base our analysis off right now. So I'm excited to see what Brandon Miller continues to do moving forward for this team. And the last rookie I'm going to go ahead and mention here is Scoot. Now, Scoot Henderson hasn't had the best start to his career. Second overall pick, only averaging 8 points a game, shooting 33% from the field. I was watching his first game when he played against the Clippers. That was not a good first game to debut with. He was going against Russell Westbrook. Russ wasn't going to take no crap, obviously. And you can see, even though Scoot is built, he ain't NBA built yet, right? He's still got a lot to work on in terms of his confidence and where he can pick his spots in a game. His last game, he scored 11. He looks a little bit more comfortable in that regard, and I'm not really worried about him at all. I still think Scoot's going to be absolutely incredible this rookie year. Just give him a little time. People like to write people off. People like to make big, bold proclamations after the first week of NBA games. Man, nobody's going to remember these games in about a month. So it's been a tough start for him, but it's only 3 games. Scoot's going to be just fine. All right, guys. So that's it for the GLP. I only got 30 minutes on this one pretty much, but what I want to continue to do is keep giving you guys just a little bit of pieces of me. I obviously love basketball, which is why if you're listening to this, once again, I appreciate you listening to this, but I like sprinkling in little things here and there. Last podcast, I sprinkled in some baseball, talking about how I wanted to, how I think that we should fix baseball's postseason. I don't really have anything big or overarching in that regard, but I still want to give you a song recommendation based on the stuff that I listen to. So there's a dude called El Mean, or his name is El Mean, R&B singer from the UK, really dope dude. The song I would recommend is called Someday. His EP, Making My Time, is super fire. Please go listen to it. You will not regret it. I promise you. Remember the name El Mean. It's spelled ELMIENE. Go and listen to that dude. He's incredible, and he's on the rise, so look out for my boy. Hey, man, once again, thank you again for listening to episode 58 of the Good Luck Podcast. I just want to say I'm very happy to continue to get back to doing these episodes. It's so fun getting back into the league and just seeing teams grow, seeing things change. Honestly, man, what I talk about tonight and then what I talk about in December, it might be night and day, honestly. I think the Denver Nuggets are still going to be really good. But everything else, you don't know, man. What if Brandon Miller might turn it around and he might be the one struggling and Scoot's going to be the one ascending? What if the Clippers work and people are going to start trying to hop on that bandwagon? What if the Phoenix Suns finally get their guys together? Devin Booker and Bradley Beal hasn't even played a game for the Phoenix Suns yet. So if they figure it out, we'll have some more data on them. We'll be able to continue to analyze and see how this season goes. But I'm very excited to give y'all what I got, and I hope y'all keep listening, and I appreciate it. At the Good Look Pod, once again on the socials, and I will have my continued focused coverage on the Denver Nuggets, but we'll still be putting out a podcast on the entire league once a week. Thank you guys again for your time. See you next time.
Tweet his hit him with the jab, get a good look, good look, good look, good look, good look, good look, good look. I ain't so